Hello there. This is the Football Bloc. All right, so this is a podcast here. We're going to talk about soccer.
Football, not soccer.
Football, whatever you want to call it. This is very informal. We're just going to talk about whatever's on our mind right now. My name is Brandon. I have James here. James, say hello.
Hello, guys.
I have Joey here. Joey, say hi.
Hey, what's up?
And we have Ryan here.
What's up?
So, like I said, this is very informal. We're not going to have like a structured format to each episode. We're just going to talk about some opinions, air some opinions out, argue them, whatever.
Some real hip fire.
Yeah, this isn't about a certain team or league or something like that. Although, I will admit I'm a Barcelona fan. James here is a Barcelona fan. Joey's a Chelsea fan. We're all American, so we do have biases to certain teams. But we're not going to specifically just talk about one team. We're going to try and just talk about world football in general. So without ado, let's get started. First off, it is Joey's birthday, so happy birthday to Joey.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday, Joey.
It's not my birthday yet.
In an hour, it will
He'll
be
be
your birthday.
15 in an
Yeah,
hour, so.
15.
Right now, I'm still 14.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway, the topic for today, we're just going to talk about the World Cup. So, any of you guys want to start off the discussion?
I'll start off. 2018 World Cup. The big thing I can remember about that is there wasn't very many standout teams. Would you agree? It seems like when we look at 2014, we see Germany, and 2010 we see Spain, and they obviously are the winners, and they have like a trademark style. But with the Russia World Cup, it felt like there were a lot of good teams with talent, but didn't have any sort of special qualities. It was just a bunch of good players thrown together.
Yeah, there was no dominant team throughout the tournament. You didn't really know who was going to win until there was like 4 left, and you could make like a good guess. But even then,
No, definitely, I agree. I mean, if I had to choose a standout team, I would choose probably Croatia, just because the fact that they were able to make it to the final. But even still, objectively, they didn't play amazingly. They played good. They played very good. But I don't know. You compare it to, say, 2014 World Cup, Germany just played everyone off the pitch. They just destroyed opposition. Like Argentina, they made it to the final. They played very well. As well, they had a really good defense. Netherlands, very surprising good team. Even a team like Colombia, they lit up the stage, had some really exciting players and things like that. 2010, Netherlands again was very good. As you mentioned, Spain with the tiki-taka style. Germany, it was great. Uruguay, a whole bunch of individual great players. Mm-hmm. But 2018, France, they won the whole thing, but it kind of felt like they just limped over the finish line, if you know what I'm saying.
A lot of potential they had. They probably have the best team in the world. They have so many young players, and maybe 2022 will be their year where they fully just dominate. Because it's pretty scary to think that they were able to win the World Cup while playing at a B- or B. Yeah. Because they have so much talent with Mbappe and Griezmann up front, and they're from top to bottom. They have tons of depth.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you look at the squad, just in terms of player quality, it makes sense they won the World Cup. But then if you watch their player performances or the team performances, and it's they didn't really play too well. I think that if they're able to click, they could be a scary team for Euro 2020 this summer, and then the next World Cup.
But what I think is I actually don't know if they're gonna do that good in the Euros, because when I think of greatness, I think when you want to have sustained greatness, you have to pretend you're the underdog every year. But I think that it might go to their head, because I'm gonna talk about American football for a second. The Patriots won a lot, and they convince themselves that they're the underdog. They have something to rally around every year. That's how they win all the time. But I think of France, and I think of a bunch of young kids, because most of them are young. Yeah. And they haven't really been at that stage before, so they're kind of coming to the next big tournaments thinking they're the top dogs, but they haven't really deserved it. I mean, they've deserved it. They deserve winning the World Cup, but they haven't really dominated for that long, and they're just gonna walk in thinking that because there's all these teams like Spain and Germany that have way more experience. Yeah, a lot of other guys have been there before, and they still have the talent.
Yeah,
and I don't want France to be too cocky because they have a lot of flair and like a lot of like big personalities.
Yeah.
There's not as many like veterans.
I mean, I totally agree. I think you just look at each World Cup, like the defending champion usually does terrible. Like Germany was awful in 2018.
That was like a whole different kind of awful.
I mean, and Spain was embarrassingly bad in 2014.
All the teams that were supposed to do good, like disappointed.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
There were teams that were supposed to do bad that did great, like England and Russia. Like people thought England was going to win, or even Russia could have won, and that's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, is that just like a fluke? Is it just home field advantage, or is it like
I think a lot of it had to do with that. I mean, their manager, they have a very good manager, and they have a decent squad, but still, I think the home field advantage played a lot. You know, when you're playing in your home country and you have the entire country's like supporting you, you know, it helps a lot. It could also help you negative, or like it can impact you negatively, like Brazil in 2014, but. A country like Russia, who there wasn't really much pressure on them. It was kind of like
and they don't get much spotlight, so they want to use it
they're playing with house money.
And Putin.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it's really hard going into a tournament as a defending champion because you have to keep that winning mentality. You can't let that team become stagnant. I mean, you look at like Italy won 2006, 2010 eliminated in the group stage. Spain, the same thing. Germany did the same thing. France, I mean, it's looking like they're probably going to do the same thing too in 2022. Who knows? But, I mean, their squad, like, they have a star-studded squad, like, literally world-class players in each position.
Everywhere,
But, it's just if they can work together. I think Didier Deschamps, the manager, I think he's a decent manager, but, like, it's hard to judge how good he is because, you know, he has all these great players at his disposal, but like I don't know, you can have a decent or like an average manager with a ton of world-class players and still do good. So I don't know if he's actually a great manager or if he's just like, you know, kind of just there and is benefiting from having a world-class squad. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think Valverde and Messi.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you look at Barcelona the last 3 seasons, 2.5. Valverde. I mean, I don't think he's a bad manager. I think he's a decent manager.
Like compared to like his players, like.
But
he's not up to par.
Barcelona would not have won as many trophies under Valverde if they didn't have Messi. Messi is, you know, he's the kind of guy. He's like the one player that he's like a one-man team.
Yeah, you could stick him anywhere and he'll just instantly. And he makes others better because, I mean, he sucks so much attention. That's the other thing about really good players. Like, it's not that they're just so good. It's like they command so much attention where, like, he's sucking up, like, so many guys. Like, he probably has, like, the fullback on him. There's probably a center mid who's tracking back, always keeping an eye on him. That means, like, the middle's open. That means the other flank, usually, where, like, Dembele or Griezmann is. There's less pressure on them. So, like, it makes it easier for the other players around them to succeed when... And plus, he takes the pressure off a lot of the players, too, because he can succeed with pressure on them. But so it makes it easier, like everybody's all eyes are on Messi, and then they have, like, the other guys who get to, like, relax, and, like, they have more time on the ball and everything. Like, it's a lot easier to play with Messi than be Messi.
Now, let me be the devil's advocate here, and let me ask you, if Messi's so great, then how come he hasn't won anything with Argentina?
Well, I mean, honestly... When I think about, like, Barcelona and Messi, like, I think, like, Barcelona, they have a very good... I mean, when we talk about, like, Barcelona, like, look at, like, how Barcelona was for a solid, I don't know, 10 years with, like, Iniesta, Messi, Xavi. Like, there were so many other guys that were, like... And even with, like, Neymar and Suarez, these guys are all, like, at the peak of their careers, they were, like, top 4 or 5 players. When you look at Argentina, you have all these guys who can score goals, but they don't play they're not really... so team focused. Like, Messi will do anything for his team to win, but, like, these other guys, they don't seem to shine when, like, they're given the opportunity. I feel like they all kind of want Messi to do all the work, but sometimes he can't when he has the entire team on his back. Like, Higuain, he seems to choke in the worst possible moments. Aguero never really... I haven't seen him do much for Argentina. I've watched them in a lot of games, and he never seems to impress me. Like he does for Man City.
For Argentina, he pops up here and there, but it's not like on a consistent basis.
It's like their team is just a bunch of forwards. They're so top heavy.
You're relying on one guy though. It's like your star player is only as good as the other team can help set him up to succeed. To just assume that he can, like you said, one-man army is usually a big mistake because, like we see in like Portugal with like Ronaldo, like he can score some goals, but he ain't gonna win you matches. He's not gonna take you far because you need support. It's hard to when everyone focuses one guy, and then the other people are like helpless to do anything. You're not going to win. You're not going to be able to get far.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think both teams, like if you look at Portugal and Argentina, especially at the last World Cup, both teams are heading in different directions. Argentina seemed, at least after the World Cup, they seemed to be heading down.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Whereas Portugal looked like they were heading up.
Portugal has like a solid foundation too. They have a ton of youth.
Now, I mean, if you look at Argentina now after the last World Cup, it's not as bad as it was, or after the Copa America. I mean, it's not as bad. Like they seem to be kind of doing well, but still, Portugal keeps going up and up. Like I
consider Portugal like one of the 4 or 5 favorites to win the World Cup. They're a very good team.
At one point, like Ryan said, like it was just Ronaldo and then all these like average guys. But now they have like Ronaldo, plus all these other world class players up top. Like it's not like France where it's world class in every position, but it's
up top and like attacking minded.
Yeah, but it's either world class guys or decent enough guys that they could. I really think they could win Euro 2020, and actually I think what you guys were saying, all the big teams at the 2018 World Cup were disappointing. I mean Portugal again, like they were a little disappointing too, considering that they were the defending European champions.
Yeah.
And they had guys like Bernardo Silva, and guys like Guedes. Pepe, and of course Ronaldo and Rui Patricio. Like they had all these big name players, and it just, they just relied on Ronaldo. He did great, but when he didn't have a great game, the team just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah.
I think it plays into this running theme of all the big teams at the 2018 World Cup just didn't really perform. Like even the teams that went far just. It always seemed like they could be doing better. Like I remember all the commentators on ESPN and stuff. They saying like, "Oh, the teams they're growing into the tournament," but it's like the semifinals. Like how much more? Like you still have to do a lot of growing, and you only have like 1 or 2 games left. It's France. Even though they won, they weren't really dominant. Like
it was like.
England, like Germany, Argentina, Brazil. Like I think the only team that, in my opinion, that you can consider a big team that played really well was Uruguay. But no one really thought Uruguay was going to win the World Cup.
You were waiting for them to get knocked out.
Yeah, like they're a solid team, very good team, but no one maybe outside of Uruguay thought Uruguay was actually going to win the World Cup.
They always strike me as just like a team that's always going to make like the final 8, and that's it. Like they're going to get you to like the final 8, the round of 16, and they're just going to lose to some world class team. And they're going to play it. They're going to play a close game. They're gritty.
Yeah, I think they're a very solid team. Actually, I think that had that game against France gone differently, they probably could have ended up in the Final Four. And then again, like with the other teams performing not too well, who knows, they could even won. But again, like. Now we're getting into what ifs and stuff, but
are tournaments better this way? I mean, is it better when there's not a dominant person who you just assume is going to win? Is it better to like the matches are more interesting because there actually is a chance that an underdog could win? Like this World Cup was a lot of like underdogs and a lot of like.
It was fun World Cup.
It was fun. It was like and it was different, and I think that's why I don't know. There's like a lot of criticism of it because it wasn't like a 14 where there's a behemoth just knocking everyone out of the way, and you're waiting for them to win.
No comment.
No comment. I mean, at least for me, I don't know. World Cup is a World Cup. It's great no matter how it is. But I would say I kind of preferred 2014.
Having like a dominant.
Different. I mean, I prefer 2014 just overall in general. Like I thought like the
2014
players were better. I thought the atmosphere was better.
A lot of like
Brazil stuff. Like
it has memorable moments. Well, this one.
Yeah, I mean there was memorable moments, but not as much.
Not like we're not gonna remember them like years from now.
You remember this World Cup more about the good teams that struggled more than the lesser teams did. Because like. I mean, you didn't have like a I guess the closest thing to a Costa Rica was Russia, but Russia was coming in. Croatia, but like Croatia, they've always had this was like their golden generation. Like you've always expected them to go far, and they never put it together. And
to be fair,
this was kind of like their last like hurrah, because like the next World Cup, like Modric will be like in his late 30s, Rakitic will be old. Yeah. This was kind of like their last time to shine, and like did really good.
It seemed like half the team retired after this. Like Subasic retired, and Mandzukic retired.
They were triggered.
the old guy, who was Corluka retired. The captain, a whole bunch of these guys are, and then like you said, Modric, he was already old at the World Cup.
Like, you can see how old he is now. Like,
yeah, because that season really after the World Cup, he was terrible.
Like he used all the energy left in him, and he almost got him to the title, but it was close.
Yeah, and then Rakitic too. I mean, we were just talking
drop off
camera. Yeah, he was wasn't doing too well, but he was great at the World Cup, and then that season he kind of just dropped off, and then. Yeah, Mandzukic, even though he's retired, he has.
And they're not like a country that can churn out world class talent every year. Like even when like Italy has a bad year, like I think Italy's gonna be really good soon because they have a ton of talent. Because they can keep churning it out. Like when you see a team like Croatia, like this was like they're like just with like they're kind of like Belgium. I think like they're such a small country where it's like really hard. Probability wise, like that they're gonna have another team like in. 8 years, that's this good. It's very low.
Isn't Belgium ranked number 1 right now?
I think they were right now. They were. I don't know if they are right now, but they were. And in my opinion, I think Belgium is extremely overrated. And it's probably an unpopular opinion right now. But yeah, I think they have a ton of really good players. I think that if they
one of the best midfielders.
They have De Bruyne. They have Lukaku up top. They have Mertens. They have Hazard. They Then Courtois, Vertonghen, other Meunier, they have so many great players.
Courtois been playing not so great.
But at the World Cup, he was.
Didn't he have more goals conceded than saves recent? I saw he had more. He conceded more goals.
Last season, his first at Madrid was terrible. But that's also because Real Madrid in general was having a terrible season. It's his first season at this new club. Confidence. Went to the toilet.
Shot down immediately.
But at the World Cup, he was great. I mean, he was basically the only reason Brazil didn't go through. I mean, remember that last minute save against Neymar? But yeah, he was amazing. And I just feel like if Belgium had a proper manager, they could have wiped the floor with this World Cup. They really could have. Roberto Martinez, he's a decent manager, but. He was good for he managed Wigan. And they're kind of mid-table. They were a mid-table team. Now they're a championship side.
But you're not ready to deal with these guys who are world-class talents. They're pretty much all in the Premier League too.
Yeah. I think
they're a team that's familiar with each other. They have a lot of chemistry. I think that their problem is they have a lot of creative minds. But when you have too many creative people in a situation, there's a lot of different ideas and stuff, and when you put that into a soccer field, there's a lot of people doing their own thing, and it's less about I feel like it's not they're selfish per se, but they all have their
they don't have designated roles.
They're free flowing. You have De Bruyne creating plays on his down the middle, putting through ball, but you have Hazard who wants the ball on the wing, coming in, cutting inside. Martins is really good. I mean, they have a really Lukaku, up front at least they're very solid. At the back they could use some.
I mean, they have a good center back pairing. They have
Alderweireld.
But they're fullbacks. I mean, Meunier, I think he's okay. He's pretty good, but again, they could do a little better. But still, other than that, the whole team is
I think Axel Witzel's underrated player.
He's very good as well.
He plays above the front, the back four, a good holding role too.
Yeah, and I know Dembele, Belgian Dembele.
Yeah,
he plays in China now, but at the World Cup he was very good.
But they're one of those teams where they're such a small country where they're not gonna have the depth of Germany or Spain. So if anybody gets hurt or if it's the end of the game and you have to start subbing guys in, they don't have they kind of run out of steam. I feel like.
Yeah, I also think that the Belgian FA made a really bad decision appointing Roberto Martinez because before him you had Mark Wilmots, who, again, he was kind of a worse version of Martinez. He didn't really know what he was doing. He just has a world-class squad at his hand, and that's why Belgium was, for the most part, disappointing at the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Euro. And then, it's just they have this golden generation from, say, 2013, 2014 to now, and they're running out of time.
Yeah, because in some point, all these guys are at the primes of their careers now, 27, 29, 30 years old. But, after this World Cup, by the time 2026 rolls around, they'll be in their mid-30s, and it'll be too late.
Yeah, and like you said, a country like Belgium are not very big. That there's no guarantee that you're going to have world-class guys continuing to come out.
Like their windows now.
You know,
So
I think so. Like big bright future.
who do you
The
think?
Netherlands.
The Netherlands?
Yeah.
I agree. I
we
really
got the
agree.
Netherlands in there, bro. I'm
Agree.
ready for
Yeah.
the Netherlands.
I really agree.
And the
They,
last tournament they had, they got to the final, I think.
the Nations League.
Yeah,
They did really good. Yeah, they only lost to Portugal.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Van Dijk at the back,
De Jong.
plus De Jong, De Ligt, De Vrij, Depay, all these guys.
Wijnaldum.
You got
Wijnaldum,
great names, man.
Sillerson. Yeah, they have a really good squad. It's a largely young squad. The only problem is they don't have a proper center forward. But still, we've seen teams in the past play Spain in 2012. They basically played with 6 midfielders.
Germany, when they won,
And,
they kind of did that too.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I mean, Klose played a little bit,
yeah,
but like,
it was like close to.
but they'd have
Götze,
like Götze and
um,
Schürrle sometimes.
Yeah,
like,
Muller.
like these guys are more. They can play center forward sometimes,
Yeah.
but like they're not like a striker. Like they can play like they'll need guys like you can't isolate them alone. You need to have like 2 guys on the outside up with them.
Yeah.
Because like they play more like they play underneath a little bit.
Yeah. I think.
Like they're not like
yeah.
a in the box forward. Like you're not going to be and expecting them to have like Lukaku or like Ronaldo.
Yeah, yeah. To be fair, I do think that not having a proper center forward hurt Germany in Euro 2016. I think they, in my opinion, they were the best team in the tournament. They just lacked
I feel like the advantages
proper
with
goal
that,
scorer.
or you're a lot more like it's easier to tactically like it helps passing when you have a more like a retreated role where like you have more guys like in the opponents like outside around their 18 passing around, but like your weakness is when you have to cross the ball in and have somebody like a big physical presence like a Falcao too, like just come up and win the header. But like it's better when you when you're doing like maybe like a 3-on-2 and you have a guy who's good on the ball, where like you can pull like one of the defenders away and then just have like a 1-on-1 with a guy who's like good on the ball, like a good dribbler. Because I feel like Götze, he's pretty good on the ball. And he can pass too, so like it's always good to have a forward who can pass out and not just take it and shoot it. Because like you're like a one-trick pony, or like as a defender, you want to know like if you know that like your guy is gonna go right to goal, then you can prepare for it. But if he could turn away and like pass it into the box, like I feel like it's good to have more tools when you're a forward and not just be a guy whose job is just head the ball.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
like just a box guy, big number 9.
Yeah.
So I mean, it depends on the team, but I feel like some teams it helps to have a more like a false 9, but you still need to have somebody who can finish in the box.
Yeah, I think having a false 9 it all depends on the players you have. Like if you have a guy like Messi who you can put as a false 9, like that's you play him anywhere, he'll do great. But I don't know. I feel like it depends on each individual team, and things like that. But let me ask you another question. The 2018 World Cup, why do you think Brazil wasn't able to fulfill their potential and win the World Cup? Because at one point it looked like they were going to win it, and then before the tournament they were unstoppable in the qualifiers and the friendlies, and the World Cup came around and they started off not bad, but like they seemed like kind of sleepy, if you know, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, didn't they barely edge out a win against Costa Rica or whatever?
Yeah, I mean they
because they have a good.
yeah they beat. Or no, they tied Switzerland.
Yeah, I remember that.
It wasn't really a dominant
They barely
performance.
beat Serbia.
No, they beat Serbia pretty. They beat Serbia pretty comfortably. Costa Rica, they played well, but in the final third, it was kind of lacking. And then Mexico, they beat Mexico pretty easily. And then Belgium, though, that's where things started to fall apart. I mean, I don't think they played bad. They just
Belgian Titans.
they played bad for a span of like 5 minutes, and then that ruined their entire game. But yeah, why do you, in your opinion, why do you think they just weren't able to win it?
My guess would be, I mean, obviously they didn't fail to win because of talent, but I feel like they kind of had they weren't as reliant as Argentina is to Messi, but I feel like after the 2014 World Cup, Brazil they kind of felt like they lost because Neymar wasn't there. So they were they thought Neymar would just come back and he'd be older and better and he'd just carry them to victory this year. And I feel like I mean, he did. I think he played all right in the World Cup, but like they were kind of expecting him, and they probably shouldn't have because I mean you have like Coutinho, who I think, and Firmino. These guys are like amazing players. They're like probably top 10 in the world too. But I don't know. It's kind of puzzling, especially when all these other teams. I guess you could chalk it up to. I mean, it wasn't just like Brazil. I mean, almost all the big teams struggled. So I guess you'd have to ask like why all these big teams are struggling, because it can't all be because of managers, and it can't all be because of teams relying on good players.
Well, that could be a reason I want to talk about. Me and Brent, we're talking about confidence, like lost confidence, and there's two names I think of that weren't in the World Cup, which is the United States and Italy. And that's something, we should probably talk about later about what is that going to look like looking forward. Like, are they loss of confidence? Are they going to fix what caused them to not make it? But I think, a reason maybe a lot of the big teams were slipped up is because of the vacuum that, Italy, United States, a lot of new different teams came, and it's like that saying, the world's best swordsman doesn't have to fear the world's second best swordsman. He has to fear like an unknown one who might play differently. So when you're used to a certain style, maybe it's easier for you to get more nervous or tripped up in what you're doing. And when you see other big teams failing, it might not make you the most confident in yourself as you would be playing someone who you're used to.
Sometimes it's like it lights a fire under your butt when like I was gonna say your ass.
You could have done it. You could have done it. No, it's just weird.
But like when you're like a really good team and like you're playing as another really good team and like you need to play your A game to beat this team, you're gonna try really hard. Like, you're gonna give it your all. Like when like Germany played Italy and like was it the Euros?
Yeah.
Like they both were they both put it all on the line.
That was a great game too.
And like I remember when didn't England play? Who did England play last? It was like the World Cup 2014, or it was such a good game. It was Portugal, I think.
Or England, Italy, that one, or England, Uruguay.
I think it was England and Portugal. I remember some England versus
Portugal played Germany. And
it was like when Sturridge scored and he was doing
Italy,
it was Italy. Okay.
Great game too, yeah.
And Spain versus Portugal, that's what I was thinking of. Another great game.
Yeah.
Where like you have like these world class teams and like you have to give it your all to beat these teams. But like if you're like Brazil and you're playing against like Costa Rica, it's hard to get motivated for that. And like just knowing that all the other good teams are struggling, where you can just be like, well, I don't really need to give my all because these teams aren't really trying that hard.
Yeah.
So I don't really need to turn it on yet until like they're kind of like, okay, just like wait, like we're gonna turn it on eventually. And they kept saying that, and then they actually played a good team in Belgium. And like Belgium, they were kind of the same way. Like you're just thinking like, oh, they're gonna turn it on eventually, and like I mean, they both played each other. Obviously, one of them has to win.
Yeah, maybe it's because it's like that. I've heard people talk about when they talk about basketball. It's like college basketball can be more interesting than normal basketball because those guys have to prove something. We talked about France and they won. They had young talent. Maybe they felt they need to prove themselves regardless of how other people are playing. So they had to make a name themselves. They had to go big, and that's. I mean, they didn't. Again, we said they didn't win spectacularly, with like a dominating play, but maybe that was just enough to get them like over the edge to finally.
They did enough to get.
Yeah, they did enough. Yeah.
Because you didn't have to do much. I mean, like you didn't have to play like Germany did in 2014.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to play wonderfully to win the World Cup.
As long as you win, then you win.
It's preferable that you play good for our viewing pleasure. But
it makes it more interesting.
You don't have to.
But someone's gonna win no matter what. And it's like, they just play better on par with everyone else.
Yeah, I would say two things. I would say, definitely I agree. I think there was like a vacuum of teams, not just Italy and U.S., but there was a lot of big teams missing. Chile,
Netherlands,
Ghana is missing too.
Those were like staples of the World Cup for the past like 8-10 years.
Yeah, you have like newcomers. Like I think it was Panama's first
and
Iceland.
It's just hard. It's hard to get excited. It's
hard. Tunisia. It wasn't their first World Cup, but it was like their first in a long time. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, like all these teams that. They weren't in the World Cup for a long time.
Like,
and then
as a neutral fan, it doesn't get you excited seeing these teams play because they don't play very if you know about if you're familiar with soccer and then you can appreciate how they play because they're very defensive minded. They're trying to force a 0-0 tie, go to penalties. They're trying to scrap by with wins. Mm-hmm. They play very aggressively on the back and then they constrict you really fast. But they don't really focus much on attack. They'll counterattack. Because they don't have the talent to go toe-to-toe with, they can't play the midfield with Germany and Spain.
I know, but I agree from a neutral's point of view.
But it's just not fun really to watch, because you see when you see, Germany or Spain play these teams, you see, a lot of just passing from side to side by Germany, like 80% possession, but because they can't do anything against 10 guys in the box. Whereas just for like a neutral fan, all I see is just
so desperately trying to not lose.
all they see is just a bunch of guys defending in a box, and they clear it, and then the other team comes right back, and a lot of like just back and forth passing by Germany, very slow, or like Spain. All the big teams. That's what they do against these other small teams. And there were so many small teams because you had these teams like USA, Italy. They didn't make the World Cup, so you have
someone has
5
to fill
to 6.
the slot, But what about
somebody's got to fill it? Yeah.
What is it like for the neutral watcher or observer when they see Germany get beaten by South Korea or someone like that, and that's a totally out of the field, unexpected.
It's always fun to see the upsets. That's why it was so cool to see Costa
But
Rica.
then it's cool to watch them, but then when it affects the later tournament, it kind of sucks because
then
you
you
don't
have
get
all
those
those-
big
you still
clashes that you're ready
them.
for.
To be fair,
Cinderella's playing each other.
Korea does have some pedigree. Like they got 4th place.
Yeah,
in
normally they're one of the
they're always
Asian
there.
teams.
But still, they shouldn't be beating
I
Germany.
mean, where Germany was before the World Cup, to where they are
they shouldn't
now,
be
it's
beating
like
Germany,
it's
yeah.
kind of
At that point, when they played Korea, weren't they already pretty much out?
No. They had everything to play for because they
were
lost
in a bad group.
they lost to Mexico. They beat
But
Switzerland.
did Mexico lose?
And Mexico was losing to Sweden.
Yeah.
Mexico was losing. So if Germany, all they had to do was tie Korea. No, they had to beat Korea, and then they have 6 points, and then Mexico would get eliminated, and Germany goes through.
But
Sweden tops the group, but then they just collapsed.
Yeah, it was just
it was embarrassing. Neuer losing the ball in midfield, and that was embarrassing. But
I mean, didn't Cruz had a nice goal though, if I remember?
Yeah, it's funny because I in my opinion, Toni Kroos had a terrible tournament. But that one goal, that was an amazing goal. It just glosses over the 3 terrible games he had.
Yeah.
So everyone,
So you remember
I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably more humiliating. We were talking about the U.S. and Italy. It's probably, I don't know, maybe more humiliating for Germany to make the World Cup and then get not thrashed, but to
be the defending champions.
Yeah, but not just defending champions, a really good,
one of
amazing
the
performance
all-time
when they
best
won.
teams.
Yeah, and then you just get decimated basically.
Yeah.
For where you were, and then it's better if you just didn't make it, so you can't
Yeah,
get embarrassed
I
when
agree.
you get it there.
Yeah.
But
I think the reason the big teams play bad, I don't think there's an overarching reach for each one. I think it's kind of a coincidence. I mean, back to Brazil, I think the reason they didn't do good is 2 major reasons. That was still over reliance on Neymar, but also Neymar just himself didn't have a great tournament. He came back from an injury. He was injured since February of 2018. He didn't play.
Yeah, he was kind of
up until the first game of the World Cup, and then he's doing all his antics diving everywhere.
typical Neymar stuff.
Yeah, and he played okay.
Yeah, but
but compared to his performance
decent,
at the last
alright,
World Cup,
but you expect him to be great because
he
he
was
played
in the last
really
World Cup,
good before, and he was younger, so you thought naturally he's going to be
he's gonna get
25
better,
years old. He's going to be getting close to the prime. He's a star now. PSG man.
Yeah, and
because he plays really good for PSG. I mean, granted it's France, but still.
Yeah, but I also think a big problem was their fullbacks. They attacked when Brazil attacks, you have the 3 guys up top. But then they're both their fullbacks. At the time, it was Danilo or Fagner and Marcelo or Felipe Luis. They would bomb up and down.
Yes,
Marcelo even more so than Felipe Luis. And against a team like say Costa Rica, who is a very defensive team. In general, but when you're going up against Brazil, they're gonna sit back so far that you can do that. You can basically have you're adding 2 extra guys to your attack.
So you don't have anything to lose.
And then even a team like Serbia, they're a good team, but look at the talent gap between Brazil and Serbia. But Belgium, on the other hand, they're a world-class team.
They're an amazing counterattack
and
team.
their counterattack, that one move, if you remember, I forget who had the ball, but I think it was Lukaku who played it out to De Bruyne. De Bruyne was basically 1v2 on right because Marcelo was all the way up attacking. So there was this massive wide open space, and then De Bruyne had that amazing shot and went right into the corner, and then next Brazil was 2-0 down to Belgium. Now, if you look at the 2019 Copa America, Chiche, the manager of Brazil, he fixed that problem, and the fullbacks did not advance that much. I mean, Dani Alves had his moments where he would do tricks and stuff, but for the most part, they stayed back, and because of that, Brazil, they only conceded 1 goal throughout the entire Copa America, but at the expense, they didn't score as many as they normally would have. But in my opinion, I think he really fixed that problem. I think Brazil going forward is a very dangerous team into the next World Cup as long as everything stays okay. And funniest thing is that Neymar was injured. He missed the 2019 Copa America. I think Brazil actually played better without.
As long as it
Neymar.
happens, we don't have your main guy.
Yeah,
Like, everybody steps up. Somebody's gonna step
will
up.
have
Yeah.
to play.
Yeah, like the guy Everton, he wasn't at the World Cup, but at the Copa America he stepped up big, and other guys like Jesus, who had a very disappointing World Cup, played amazing. Firmino was great. All these other guys were great.
So does David Neres play at all for?
He played. He started like the first couple games. He wasn't great. He was okay, but once Everton started playing amazing, he's relegated to the bench.
Plethora of options.
Yeah. But yeah, at the
they have all the Real Madrid young guys too.
Yeah, Rodrigo, Vinicius.
They just signed another one too. They signed like a third
there's a
kid. He's like 18 maybe.
Yeah, I forget what team he came from, but yeah, they have there's a whole bunch of guys.
They're just trying to find the next Neymar.
Yeah, and then that squad that's going forward. They look really strong. Compare that to Argentina, I don't know. They got a lot of problems.
I thought Dybala was gonna be like, I thought he was gonna step up, but he kind of.
Yeah, it's
I don't know. I'm
like,
still waiting on him.
He's kind of Dybala's strange. Like
he's inconsistent.
Yeah, he is very inconsistent. Like he, with the 2017-18 season, he started out. He was amazing. He was scoring goals like every game, amazing free kicks, and then he just kind of like fell off midway point. And then last season, he was like not doing good at all. But to be fair, Ronaldo came in. Ronaldo was kind of playing. It took his not took his position, but like took away the limelight. He was now the focus of the team. This season, I think Dybala's playing a lot better. He's also getting older. He's a little more mature.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that people called him like the next Messi. He's not. Again, no one can really.
Yeah, you can't
compare to Messi, but still, I feel like Dybala could be a much better player than he is. Not that he's not a good player. He's very good, but he could be. Yeah, but he can be like in contention for Ballon d'Or. I think if like he can be where Mo Salah is right now.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Probably
different system. But I feel like he could definitely be doing a lot better for Argentina. But a lot of that's not really his fault. Argentina, they have so many problems there.
And I feel like it won't. I feel like it'll get worse before it gets better though, because I feel like you need to get some of those like old guys out of there because they get comfortable there. Like that's the problem with like, it's not just in soccer, but like in a lot of sports, you have guys who have been there for like a while, and they just think like by default they're gonna be the guys. They're just like it's like Coach Foley, how he had the seniors who automatically made the team, and they wouldn't try at all because I'm already on the team. What does it matter? Like I'm sure, like Higuain probably hasn't tried in like
you should earn
5
your place.
years.
Yeah,
he's like I'm on the team.
Yeah.
Like there's the first names on the team sheet when they have like squad submission, like Messi, then like the usual guys like Di Maria, Aguero, like they already know they're gonna be on the team.
And they don't try when they play.
Yeah, they're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm the starter.
I think the thing with Argentina is funny. If you go rewind the clock, say 3 or 4 years, the thing with them is they always had world-class players, usually up top, but then they would also have a whole bunch of world-class defenders.
Yeah.
Or maybe not world-class, but very good defenders. But they wouldn't be called up like Ezekiel Garay. Like, he's very good, but really good. He never got called up.
Wasn't he stuck playing in like Portugal and like Ukraine or something?
He was in Russia, but then now he plays for Valencia. Still, he doesn't get called up.
At this point now he's like older.
Geronimo Rui, goalkeeper for Real Sociedad. Like, he's very good, and I don't think he even has one cap under his name. But then now the thing with Argentina is like they don't even have any good defenders to call up anymore. Really, like
left.
Yeah, and
so now it really just is offense.
Yeah, and even still, their offense is like they still have great players, but it's not the old days where you just look at the team sheet. You have Messi, Aguero, Higuain, Di Maria.
Those guys haven't gotten any better.
Yeah, now it's like, all right, you still have Messi, obviously.
Yeah, Messi's still
and then you have Dybala and Aguero, but you also have guys like or Lautaro Martinez is becoming very good, but still.
Enter?
Yeah, he's becoming very good, but then you also have guys like Campos, Rodrigo De Paul.
Yeah,
they're decent players, but
guys,
like
you don't have this problem with like Spain or France where you have these guys, just regular guys, like nothing like you're gonna remember 10 years from now. Like, oh, I remember this guy. Oh, he's so like you're not gonna say that about those guys.
Yeah, I think there's so many problems with Argentina. They don't call up the right players. they're not producing as many world-class players. They're
Probably not good coaching.
the coach, their coach right now, Lionel Scaloni, he started off pretty shakily. Like, things are starting to get better for him, but still,
It's a really hot, it's a hard position to have.
Yeah,
Like, the coach of Argentina, because you have to deal with Messi. I mean, it's not like Messi's hard to deal with. It's just that he's the best player in the world.
yeah. So you should accommodate or
So
try
it's
to.
like-
So they get a lot of attention.
So
Yeah,
it's at what point, like, how much power does Messi have over the team sheet? Like, because when you have a guy who's that good, or like sometimes you just want to be like, hey, what do you want us to do? But like, also, if you're the coach, you want to be the one. Like, it's weird. It's a weird position to be in because I mean
Yeah.
he's so good and he's such a good leader.
Yeah, it's such a unique situation.
It's like
there's-
LeBron James
yeah.
in basketball. Like how much coaching is their coach actually doing? Like
Yeah.
LeBron James picks his team pretty much. He tells who to trade for.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy.
Because then
Yeah.
the team is just made around one
It's
dude.
just-
So that dude leaves, like,
Yeah.
then you have to
That's
reshuffle the
exactly
whole
what
team.
happened. Like the
Yeah.
team he left, the Cavaliers, they're awful. They are the worst team in the
Yeah, because
league.
they have your
Because
whole
he left
team.
and everybody
yeah.
he brought with him was like, I'm out of here.
It's like on the
Yeah.
arch, if you take out the centerpiece, it just all falls,
just falls
in.
in,
Yeah, so
yeah.
it's useless,
Like,
then, and that's
yeah.
pretty much what you
The problem
have.
is, like, at least with LeBron James, he brought the team that he assembled like a title in Cleveland. Like Messi still hasn't got like the title yet. So what happens when Messi leaves and it's just a bunch of dudes? Like when Messi's
Yeah.
eventually going to
Bunch of
retire,
dudes.
like what's Argentina going to be like? They don't have like the hope Dybala is going to be the next guy, but what happens if he isn't? Like they could have like a decade of just
Yeah.
failure.
Yeah.
and for some reason, like they're such a big country and soccer is so like important there, but like they're not like Brazil or like Colombia where they constantly like have like they churn out players. Like for some reason with Argentina, I don't see like the same like level of just
I mean, they turn out players, but it seems like it's kind of not as much. Like the well kind of dried up. But then
Yeah.
again, that comes and goes. Like
I guess it
like
could just
like
be
we were
unlucky, right?
Yeah, we were just talking about golden generations. Like
Could just be
you
like
know,
a like unlucky generation, like just like
Yeah.
maybe just like I don't know the
Yeah.
bronze generation.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like Germany from like late 2000s, early 2010s. Like it seemed like every player they had was world class.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
thing with Spain. Now, like of course they still have great players, but it's not the same level. Argentina,
go
it's
through,
probably the same
go
cycle.
through years where
you
like
know?
you're like insane. You have a bunch of insane guys, and you have just like a regular unit, and you have like lackluster. But like
Yeah.
it goes back. Usually with these big nations, it doesn't stay poor for
Yeah,
long.
I mean, look at Brazil, the 2014 World Cup. Their starting striker was Fred. Their backup striker was Joe.
Yeah, these guys
Like-
these. This is who you're gonna start.
Yeah,
for,
compare
like,
it to
Brazil.
Yeah, 2018 they had Gabriel Jesus
Oh my
and
gosh.
Roberto Firmino.
Yeah, these.
So
amazing.
it's just kind of a generational thing, I think. But then also the Argentine FA is really corrupt.
Oh yeah,
notoriously
there's a lot
corrupt.
of there's a lot of like politics involved in some of those.
Yeah, and the problems just
Locker
trickle
rooms.
down to the bottom. Money
Yeah,
problems,
and
things like
you
that.
see it on the field. Like if your organization isn't run right, you see it with your
Yeah.
product on the field. Because
Yeah,
wasn't like Messi weren't they pressuring him to pretty much just he was wasn't he thinking about leaving or
he did. He retired
and
momentarily.
they brought him
then
forced
they
they
begged
forced
him
you
to come
you
back.
have to come they're forcing the come because they were weren't they burning jerseys and rioting because he's sad important to them.
Yeah, and it's I heard this one story. This kind of encapsulates the entire Argentine FA. Before the 2018 World Cup, each national team they organized friendlies to prepare yourself for the World Cup. So, for example, Brazil, their group stage opponents were Costa Rica, Serbia, and Switzerland. So
Yeah.
their friendlies, they played Croatia, which is another Slavic country near Serbia. They kind of play like Serbia.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
then they
definitely.
played, I think they played Honduras,
Mhm.
another Central American
Yeah.
country like Costa Rica.
Costa
I think it was
Rica.
Honduras. And then they played Austria, which is a Central
Other
European country like Switzerland.
Yeah.
So
Similar
a
level.
whole bunch of other teams followed that kind of structure. Argentina, their group stage opponents were Croatia, Nigeria, and Iceland.
Uh-huh.
Okay, their two scheduled games was against Haiti and against Israel. Now Haiti and
on.
Israel aren't like any
Oh.
other teams in the group. And then I don't know if you remember, but they were going to play Israel in Israel,
Yes.
and then there was all these protests in Palestine, they started burning
they
Messi shirts and stuff.
they're
So they
threatening.
canceled that game. So they only had one preparation game. It was against
It's
Haiti.
Haiti.
Haiti is not
They're hot
good.
garbage.
Argentina smashed them 4-0. Now, if you watch the game, you're like, oh yeah, Argentina's doing great, but
It's
Haiti. And then it just
there's no way to prepare for
that lack of preparation
That's-
just encapsulates the entire.
Wow, I didn't know that's
Yeah.
amazingly awful.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the 2019 Copa America. They started off awful. It was looking like worse than the 2018 World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
They got played off the field by Colombia. James Rodriguez, Duvan Zapata, they literally just like tore Argentina to shreds. Once the game, like their tournament started to started to get better. They played good against Qatar, and against Venezuela, and they eventually lost to Brazil, but they played well. I think that looking forward, they have a plan, and I think the team is going to do better. But it's not like a clear like, all right, we're definitely like it's not a.
It's not a sure
very
thing.
Yeah, it's not a very bright
They
future.
could they could easily just go back to being crap.
Yeah. And I mean, I think what's very worrying is the 2019 Copa America. Messi didn't really have that great of a tournament. Now he was lucky that through the latter stages of the tournament, the rest of the team kind of played well, and it kind of like excused him for not having great performances. Like it was okay, but. What if that doesn't happen? What if the next tournament Messi again doesn't have a good tournament, and then the rest of the team also doesn't have a good tournament? Because if you remember 2018 World Cup, they were on the verge of getting eliminated. In the group stage.
Oh my God, yeah.
The first two games, Messi along with the entire team didn't play good. Then Messi started playing good. The rest of the team started doing all right.
They squeezed by.
They squeezed by. In my opinion, that was my most. That was the most interesting game to watch, Argentina against Nigeria. Just because it was so you had no idea like who was going to win.
Could Argentina with their backs against the wall, could they finally?
Yeah, I mean Argentina. They started off really good. Messi scored that great goal. Yeah. His free kick hit the post, but then Mascherano pulled down someone in the box. I forget who it was. I don't think it should have been a penalty, but it was given a penalty. Victor Moses scored. Then Argentina's like, oh no, we're going to get eliminated. Then the chaos ensued. Mascherano, who plays a midfielder for Argentina, to be fair, was the only guy defending for Argentina. He had center backs playing as center forwards, stuff. Oh. Like it was crazy. Like the guy, Marcus Rojo, scored the winning goal. He's a center back. He was playing as a center back. He scored a volley inside the 18. Like, dude,
guys, I feel like don't know what center back means.
Yeah, and now they won, but it's I don't know that the emotion, the range of emotions was like a roller coaster because it was like at first it was like, oh yeah, Argentina's playing great. I mean, I was rooting for Argentina, you know me, I'm a Barcelona fan, so I was rooting for Messi. So at first I was like, oh, this is amazing, Argentina finally playing great. And then once Nigeria got back in the game, I was like, oh no, like Argentina's going to get eliminated in the group stage. But then once Rojo scored, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, back to being good. Like, it was that, in, my opinion, best game of the World Cup.
All right, yeah.
In your opinion, James, what was the best game of the 2018 World Cup?
World Cup? Spain and Portugal. No, hat trick.
Yeah, that was a very good game.
I think Croatia and Russia was a really good game.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
Because that went to
penalties. Right?
Yeah, because they just kept at the end they won. Who was the guy who scored the long range goal for
Cheryshev. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a brilliant strike. Because it was just going back and forth. Like you thought Russia was gonna be out, and they scored what was the score of that game?
It was 2-2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game again that was another game where I didn't know who was gonna win. At first, Croatia played better. But then Russia scored first, and then it was like, well, are they gonna squeak through a win here? And then Croatia scored, and they scored again. It was like, oh no, Russia they play good, but they're not gonna make it through. And then they scored an equalizer, and it was like they're back in it. Like they just won't give up.
France and Argentina was a good game too.
Yeah, that was good. I think. If you ask most people, they'll agree with you. Spain, Portugal, France, Argentina. Those both amazing games. Both had great goals. The Ronaldo free kick, Nacho volley, the Pavard volley, Di Maria long shot. Yeah, those are both great games. Good options, James.
The final was kind of underwhelming to watch. I remember. I mean, because the whole time, I was rooting for France, like everyone else. But the whole time, I didn't really feel like they were gonna lose, which is the good finals when you feel like you're gonna lose and you come back and win. You know what I mean? And that game, it kind of felt like just waiting for the timer to go down so you could win already. So that's how it kind of felt.
I mean that game just annoyed me. I mean,
Croatia got kind of flustered.
Yeah, I was rooting for Croatia, so I mean
that's everyone else
I'm a little biased in that sense. But dude, they played so much better than France in the first half.
But they just
they couldn't turn it into goals. It was weird.
France.
That is the nerves, man. I mean,
yeah, I mean that, and then also again, France had more talent, so sometimes talent can just win you games.
It's true.
But the 2 goals that France scored in the first half, one was an own goal, which is a complete accident, like that. Just it hit the top of Mandzukic's head, went over the goalkeeper, and the other one was a penalty, which was kind of a dubious penalty. Like without VAR, it probably wouldn't have been called a penalty. That handball on Perisic. And I remember looking at the stats. You know how they have the stats on the screen.
Yeah.
I think Croatia, pretty sure, had more possession, way more shots. France literally had 1 shot on goal the entire half, and it was a penalty.
Wait, all that means,
but yet they were 2-1 up. So
yeah,
it was
all that means is like Croatia just couldn't make anything of what they had. I mean, like they kind of had it all day. They just had it just like. I don't know, man. It feels like it could be nerves because it's like
it's the final.
It's a big thing. And it's right in front of you. It's
not
like,
only
it's
that,
like, you know, that like oh shit, like we could win the World Cup here, and then you kind of just get like you know.
Not only that, but Croatia, their previous 3 games all went to extra time, all went to penalty. No, 2 of them went to penalties. They went to extra time against England, extra time against Russia, extra time against Denmark.
They played a long game.
If you add that up, that's. Each extra time is a 30-minute.
It's an extra game.
Yes, they played an extra game. Really, it's like another 90 minutes. So they were tired.
Time. Like I mean, when you play like full games of soccer, especially at that level, like you are tired. Like even after like just
running
a half.
for an hour and a half.
It's like even just like a half, like you're dead tired after
running
one
for 20
half.
minutes. Like, running for that long and staying focused the whole time. Like that's hard.
It is
like
hard.
Normally you need like a week to recover,
and you have like
a few days.
Yeah, a few days, and then not only that, you're playing against some of the best teams in the world, some of the best players.
And you're still training that whole time.
You're still training, and then these guys,
you're not taking a break.
You know, these teams you're playing against, they're playing for national pride. They're playing their hearts out. Again, you are too.
There's a lot
but still,
at stake. Yeah, there's a lot at stake.
Yeah, and I think once the second half came around, I think the fact that they were 2-1 down just really hit them. They were like. You know,
it felt impossible.
Yeah, because at that moment, France started to get into it. Yeah. Pogba and Mbappe started doing all the tricks and stuff.
Making them feel even worse. They're getting styled on while losing.
Yeah, Pogba scored that 1 goal. And then Mbappe scored that really nice goal, too. And then the funniest thing, though, is Mandzukic's goal. I don't know if you remember that, but Hugo Lloris had the ball, and he held it for too long. He tried to pass it. He passed it straight to Mandzukic, and it was I mean, it didn't mean anything because France still ended up winning, and it was way too late in the game to really it was just a consolation goal. But still, that was
so funny.
It was really funny.
Yeah, that says something about France, like you said, they didn't really score any goals until it was almost it felt like it was in the bag. You know? That's when they felt confident. So that's why it's you said it wasn't an overbearing win, it was a limp across because they were very scared. Which says something again, because Croatia was respectable, but it's they didn't feel comfortable actually trying to go for goals really until they thought, well, we're gonna win this unless
Croatia
we
lost their
up.
legs. Yeah, it was
And then when Croatia was getting humiliated like that, it was kind of getting back from that is kind of you need an experienced team to come back from and have the mental fortitude to get back, and they don't have that much experience in those high pressure situations.
I think it's really interesting too because it was so different in the World Cup final comparing it to the last two. The last 2 World Cup finals were extremely close. Both teams were so afraid of making mistakes that it was 0-0
it was
a
boring game to watch, kind of.
Boring,
but this game had it had how many goals were in the final?
It was 4-2, so six goals in total. Yeah. That's a lot of time. That's kind of unheard of for a major final to have that many goals.
But then again, this World Cup was kind of weird.
But
it was everything was
very
weird.
weird.
I mean, is that the farthest Croatia's ever made it?
As far as they made it to if I remember correctly, 1998 they got 3rd place. Mm-hmm. But then they didn't qualify for the next 2 World Cups.
So that's a fluke.
So they're very good. That's the thing. It's up and down with that those kind of teams. But yeah, this is the farthest they've ever made it. And then France, this was their second win. They've won it before. But yeah, this World Cup is weird. The top scorer was own goals. There was 12 own goals in the entire tournament.
Weird, yeah.
In the actual top scorer, Harry Kane, was it three of his goals were penalties. 2 of them were tap-ins. The other one, Jesse Lingard shot the ball. It deflected off his heel and then off his butt and then went in the goal. He didn't even know of the goal.
Yeah.
Again, it was against Panama. Mm-hmm. They won 6-1 or something.
Yeah, so Just patting the stats right
yeah.
there.
Not to say that Harry Kane played bad. He was very good, but still, like, compare that to James Rodriguez, the top scorer of the 2014 World Cup. His goals were insane. He scored goal of the tournament, like the volley with his weak foot. Like, that was, that was just...
It almost made England seem a lot better than they actually were.
Yeah.
To watch Harry Kane right there and give so many goals, but then you watch them individually in context, and it's like, well, this is... And then they're playing, like... I mean, Sweden's not like a bad team. They play like Sweden and Panama, and it's like, well... Of course they're going to beat those guys. I mean, Panama's never even been to the World Cup before, so it's like, if you don't, that's embarrassing. But then again, you know, the U.S. lost to Trinidad, so most people don't even know that place exists.
Yeah. Couldn't find it on a map.
Yeah, well, it's kind of small.
The thing
It's like really small.
The thing with England is...
I had trouble with
I think England is much better now than they were at the World Cup. I think now they're a world-class team. At the World Cup, I think they really benefited from having like a favorable path to the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
But now I think that their team is much better. They work so much better together. Players who, like for example, Raheem Sterling didn't really have that good of a World Cup, but then now he's like top 10, like maybe even top 5, like best players in the world.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Is he the one who's never scored a goal in the World Cup?
Or he was so close.
He almost did in this one. I think I remember
almost scored like so many times. Yeah, the joke is like he couldn't buy a goal. Like,
I hope he doesn't ever get one because it's funny to watch.
Yeah.
Once I want to get one, I want to get one in like a final and win when he finally can score. And that's the only time.
Yeah, that's why I think that Euro 2020 coming up, England is a serious contender. Again, like we said, Portugal before and Netherlands. England's up there. They're a serious contender, and of course France. But yeah, England's a serious contender. They have again like a world-class squad, lots of world-class players in many positions, and I think they've improved a lot. I think actually a lot of teams have improved since the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good because I mean, if they played always like they did then,
I mean, a lot of teams, a lot of teams like they could only go up. Like Germany, like
if you go any further down, they just disband and just
even still Germany. It still feels like if you watch a Germany game like recently, it still feels weird. Like they don't. It just seems like they lost their identity. Like again, they're much better.
Used to a style.
Maybe you're used to how they were before.
Yeah,
they were so insane.
They were a lot of their guys.
It's like they could only go down from there.
Yeah.
Now they can only go up. You know, it's like opposite.
I just remember that fear. Like, the teams I root for. When one of them was playing Germany, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, oh no. Now I'm like, they could. Like Argentina just tied Germany 2-2. It was a pretty exciting game actually. I think Argentina was winning at one point. And this is like the trash version of Argentina we're talking about, not like the good version. Like
that's when you know there's like problems. It's not like fully fixed.
In like 2014, you could argue that Germany had the best goalkeeper in the world, which they did.
Yeah.
Boateng was either top 2 or top 3 defender, and then like Lahm was amazing.
Yeah.
Philip Lahm.
There's a guy named Lahm.
Yeah.
Great.
He's one of my favorite players. He's really good.
He's a great player. Yeah.
And like Schweinsteiger, he's amazing.
Everyone got hurt, and now they're the worst team in the league.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, they're gone. They're not really somebody, like, it's hard to find a copy. Like, you can't, like, replace those guys easily. And, like, a lot of their players that are insanely good, like Marco Reus, he's injured every other week, it seems like. I mean, he's been getting better now, he's playing right now, but there was a time where it felt like every time, like, you'd see him on a pitch, he'd be getting carted off. And it's hard to... Considering you don't play with your national team as much, than like your club team.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another thing I think we forget about the teams, because like a lot of these guys, they play really good for their club teams, and like the Man City guys, like on Belgium, you have like the Neymars in France, and like they're really comfortable their club teams because they see them every day, they're training every day, but when you have a national team, you're having. Like, you're on a team with guys that maybe have never seen before because they play in another country. Mm. They're, like, they could be, like, I don't know, you don't practice with them all the time. You see them, like, every few weeks. You, like, have, like, a summer training session. But, like, you're not, like, seeing them every day. And you don't, like, that's, you don't think about that as much. But you see, like, oh, these are 2 really good players, so naturally they're going to do good. But it's more than just being a good player. You have to... understanding each other plays, because if you have 2 guys who are really good, they both want the ball. Like that's what happened when like Neymar came to PSG. Like initially, like he kind of butted heads with Cavani, right?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Like Cavani was used to being like the guy, then Neymar comes in. He's like, I'm gonna be the guy now.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm getting the ball, right? It's like no.
Yeah,
But like you like get comfortable with them, like okay, like you'll get this, and I'll get this. Like we're cool with each other now. Like you train every day. You probably hang out after games and after practices. Mm-hmm. Some of them like live together.
Chemistry,
yeah, chemistry. Yeah. But like you don't have as much chemistry when like you have one guy who plays in Belgium and one guy who plays in China,
Algeria.
You have some guy from like all over the world. They never see each other except like maybe like once a month for like a game and like a practice.
Well, you have a national pride to kind of like
and I mean take it a step further. Glory, some of these guys like they barely even play in the country. They barely ever played in the countries that they represent. Like they'll be born in one country.
Like, used to calling whatever in that language. Even maybe they're like if they play for a different.
So anyway, I think we're gonna cut it right there. It's been a good hour of soccer talk about the World Cup and international football. So that has been the first episode of the Football Block with me, Brandon, James, Joey, and Ryan. Thank you very much for listening.